تنبيه, notice. في بيان من الذي يعد مثل قريب عهد بإسلام, in clarifying who's the one who's counted as newly acquainted with Islam. اعلم رحمك الله, know, may Allah have mercy on you, أن الذي يعد مثل قريب عهد بإسلام is that the one who is counted as newly acquainted with Islam هو الذي لم يعلمه أهله ولا غيرهم أمور الدين إلا الشهادتين. He's the one that his family, neither his family nor anyone else taught the religious matters except the two shahadas. وعاش على ذلك زمانا طويلا أو قصيرا, and then he lived like that for a long or a short time. فهذا إذا أنكر شيئا من أمور الدين التي هي ظاهرة بين المسلمين. So this one, when he denies something, some religious matter that is commonly known to the Muslims, it is obvious amongst the Muslims, لا يكفر, he's not deemed as a blasphemer. بل يعلم, rather he is taught. فالذي هو بعيد عن معرفة سماع الأحكام الشرعية. So the one who hasn't heard a lot of religious judgments, as if that's what Shaykh's saying. The one who hasn't heard a lot of religious judgments, يعني, a very many. ولو كان يعيش بين المسلمين, even if he lived amongst Muslims, even if he lives in a Muslim society, هذا الذي يقال له مثل قريب عهد بإسلام. This is the one who's called like a new Muslim, quote unquote, like a new Muslim. ليس الذي تخفى عليه مسألة. We're not talking about someone who doesn't know some judgment. He doesn't know a case in particular. ومرت له نظائرها. He doesn't know a case, but a similar case has passed by him. يعني, he does know something like it. كالذين سمعوا كثيرا من الأحكام الشرعية مما هو شبيه هذه المسألة. Like those who heard many religious rules that are like this case. فهذا لا يعد مثل قريب عهد بإسلام. This one who heard many rules that are like some case that he didn't hear. There's a case he never heard in particular, but he has heard many rules that are like this case. فهذا لا يعد مثل قريب عهد بإسلام. This one is not counted as quote unquote like a new Muslim. إنما شبيه قريب العهد بالإسلام, merely the one who's like a new Muslim, هو الذي عاش بين المسلمين. He's the one who lived amongst Muslims. وهو لا يتعلم معهم شيئا, without learning anything with them. وهو من أبوين مسلمين, and he comes from two Muslim parents. فالذي تعلم كثيرا مما يشبه هذه المسألة. And so the one who learned many things that are like some case in particular that he doesn't know. ومع هذا جهلها, but it happens that there is a case he doesn't know. هذا لا يعد مثل قريب عهد بإسلام. This one is not counted as like a new Muslim because there's something he doesn't know. The one who's like a new Muslim doesn't know many things like a new Muslim. أما بعض الأشياء التي ليست مما يفهم من النظائر. And concerning some things that are not understood by comparisons. فهذه إن جهلها الشخص يعذر. These things, if the person is ignorant about them, he would be excused. We're talking about a denier. وَلَوْ كَانَ دَارِسًا زَمَانًا وَاسِعًا. Even if he studied for a long time, for a very long time. لِعِلْمِ الدِّينِ. يعني, even if he has extensive knowledge of the religion. لأنه ما سمع بها, because he hasn't heard about this. So here we're talking here about a person who's wrong about something. We're not going to call him a kafir though for what he denied. Is he sinful? Maybe he is if he's speaking without qualification. مثلا, for example, شخص ما سمع بأن نبيا من الأنبياء اسمه إلياس. He did not hear that there's a prophet named Ilyas. وهو مضى عليه زمان طويل. And for a long time, he'd never heard that. ولا قرأ في القرآن اسم إلياس بين الأنبياء. And he never read in the Quran the name Ilyas amongst the prophets. فنفى نبوته. So he denied his prophethood. يعني, he denied a prophet named Ilyas. هذا لو درس عدة كتب. This one, even if he studied a number of books. وتلقى من المشايخ. And he took from sheikhs. Mashayikh here, that's an ultimate plural form. So it has the meaning of many. لا يكفر. He would not be deemed as a blasphemer. لأن مثل هذه المسألة لا يعلم بالقياس. Because the likes of this case is not known by comparison. Yani, there's no particular rule by which to derive that. لا يعلم بالقياس إلا بالسماع. Would only be known, such a thing would only be known by hearing. But don't forget, denying is like confirming. How's denying like confirming? Because, yani, what do they have in common, in other words? What denial and confirmation have in common is that they are both what? Judgments. They're both judgments. So denying something is like confirming it. Meaning, someone might say, yeah, that's the case. It wouldn't be the case. You're not allowed to make stuff up. Somebody might say, it's not the case. Also, you're not allowed to make stuff up. You're saying it's not the case. It's just like someone else saying about something, it is the case. So speaking without knowledge is haram. May Allah protect us. And religious, we're talking about in religion. وكذلك لو قرأ بعضهم في القرآن أن إلياس نبي ثم نسي. And likewise, had someone read in the Quran that Ilyas is a prophet, but then he forgot. فنفى نبوته. And then he denied his prophethood. فهذا أيضا لا يكفر. So this one also is not deemed as a kafir. Perhaps you wonder, what's this difference you speak of when you say, there's a difference between saying kafara or kaffara, or la yakfur and la yukaffar. Yeah, there's a difference. Kafara means he committed kufr. Kaffara means he deemed him, yani, or kufira. Kufira. Kufira means he's deemed a kafir. Kafara and kufira. La yakfur, he doesn't blaspheme, and la yukaffar, he's not deemed a blasphemer. Like what? How can you separate those? Like, what if someone said a statement That's not explicit blasphemy. And you don't know which meaning he intended. So what's the rule? Do you deem him? Do you tukafiruhu? Do you deem him a kafir? If he says a statement that's not explicit in blasphemy and you don't know what meaning he meant, do you deem him a kafir? You don't deem him a kafir. Hakadha. You don't. Thank you. You don't deem him a kafir. So that means la yukaffar. That means la yukaffar. He's not deemed a kafir. Deemed a kafir. Does that mean he didn't really commit blasphemy in reality, though? He might have really committed blasphemy in reality. You just don't know what he intended. So he could have kafar, could have blasphemed in reality. But for us, la yukaffar. It's not deemed a kafir. So that's why I'm telling you, pay attention to when the Shaykh says, kafar, he blasphemed. And when Shaykh says, you kafar, he's deemed a blasphemer, because those mean two different things. Alhamdulillah. وقد مر أن ذكرنا أن الذي ينكر صفة من صفات الله التي تعرف بالعقل. And it has already passed that we mentioned that someone who denies any of the attributes of Allah that could be known, that are known by the mind, لو لم يرد بها نص قرآني ولا حديثي, even had there not been any Quranic text or hadith text, the mind could still know it. كقدرة الله, like God's power, وإرادته ووحدانيته, and his will and his oneness. وحياته ومخالفته للمخلوقات, and his life and his being different from creations. أي لا يشبهها بوجه من الوجوه, meaning his being dissimilar to them in his not being similar to them in any way. وأنه سميع وأنه بصير, and that he's a hearer, and that he's a seer. وأنه عالم, and that he's a knower. وأنه متكلم, and that he's a speaker. واستغنائه عن كل شيء, and like his being independent of everything. وقدمه, and his eternality. أي أنه أزلي لا يسبق وجوده العدم, and that he is eternal. His eternality meaning beginninglessness. His existence was not preceded by non-existence, كغيره, like everyone else and everything else. وبقائه, and his everlastingness. أي لا يجوز عليه العدم, meaning that it's not possible that he would become non-existent. لا يعذر بالجهل بذلك, one will not be excused for being ignorant about that, any of that. That's all like one thing there. ولو كان قريب عهد بإسلام, even if he were newly acquainted with Islam. لم يسمع بشيء من أمور الدين, not having heard about anything of the religious matters. إلا أنه علم أن الله ربه لا إله غيره, except that he knew that Allah is his Lord and there's no God but him. وأن محمدا رسوله, and that Muhammad is his messenger. وَصِدْقَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَأَمَانَتَهُمْ, and he knew the truthfulness of the prophets and their trustworthiness. وَفَسَادَ دِينٍ غَيْرِ دِينِ الْإِسْلَامِ, and he knew that any other religion besides Islam is corrupt. Even if he did know that, but he denied any of those And even without knowing any religious document about those, he would still blaspheme. That's why, mashallah, when someone asks me some kufr questions, I would say to the person, it's not explicit blasphemy. Like, really what the person is looking for is to say, what's that person's judgment in reality? But the answer I'm giving the person is, this is how you should approach it. So I would say it's not explicit blasphemy. That means don't deem this person as a kafir. That's not saying he's not a kafir, though. But what are you going to do? You're going to not deem that person as a kafir. Wallahu a'lam. Any question, inshallah?